Welcome to Center Ground, your home for unfiltered discussion, where we tackle today's most talked about topics, break down current events, and give our take on the internet's latest foolishness. Tune in and let's find some common ground. Let's get this party started. Welcome back to the Center Ground podcast. I am your host, Bootsy. Today I wanted to have a conversation. About why men tend to avoid women over a certain age. Let's just go with 35. Why men avoid women who are of that age, especially when they don't have any children and were never married. So we've all heard the narrative. If a man isn't interested in a successful, independent woman in her 30s, he must be intimidated, right? He can't handle a boss babe. But if you actually sit down and talk to the men and have an honest conversation with both high value and low value, you would realize that intimidation has little to nothing to do with it. It's not necessarily about the woman herself. It's about the investment, as I continuously talk about, and biology. Today, we're stripping away the political correctness. We're going to look at least 7 specific reasons why men tend to filter out women over 35 for long-term relationships. We're starting with lifestyle quirks and then working our way down to the undeniable biological reality that people really hate talking about. So let's get right into it. Number 1, set in your ways. You've heard the story, can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, let's be real. The number one reason why men don't want elderly women, or older women, I should say, because 35 isn't elderly, but older women, is adaptability. When you meet someone in your 20s, you're both malleable clay. You can grow together, you can form habits together, and you can build a shared life culture. This is the best way to do it, top down. There's no other equivalent. By 35 years old, a man and a woman, for that reason, are often set in their ways. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, as they say. There's often a routine trap. She has her specific coffee, specific routine for going to the gym, if she goes to the gym. Most don't anymore. Specific way of loading the dishwasher. But the integral issue here is it's harder to merge 2 fully grown autonomous adults with fully different infrastructures to talk and communicate with one another effectively, especially when it requires you to build from the ground up. This is why doing it around the same age and the same lived experiences is the best way. The conflict. Men often interpret rigidity not as independence, but as being difficult and uncooperative. And the modern day feminist often looks at being independent. The definition and the behavior doesn't show independence, but rather dependence associated with insubordination. Let's look at point 2. Skepticism factor. Number 6 is the why of it all. When a man meets a woman over 35 who has never been married or has no kids, his pattern recognition brain turns on. You see, men are logical. He'll ask, what's the catch? Is it too good to be true? While partaking in the vetting process, he'll assume that over the last 15 years, Other men have dated her. And if there must be a catch, because why have none of them actively tried to lock her down? You see, the problem is men often take huge risk when marrying a woman, taking on a woman or letting that woman have his children. So any logical man would first think, is this lady a good suit? And the older you get, the more they worry. And they worry because they understand logic. And logic dictates other men have had opportunities to get at you and oftentimes chose not to. And even if you chose to not pick those men, it isn't viewed as you were extremely selective. It's viewed as you're indecisive or you have a problem picking good men. To the men, it feels like a gamble. It feels like you're buying a car that's been sitting on the lot for 3 years. Although it can be fine, if you know anything about cars, once they sit, something's usually wrong with them. Let's go to point 3: emotional baggage and cynicism. This is where the rubber meets the road. If you've ever experienced or spoken to any woman of a certain age, you would understand that most, if not all, have jaded pasts. They have a myriad of exes that created problems within their lives. The ghosts of the exes is what some people call it. By age 35, almost everyone has had their heart broken, not just once, not just twice, but a few times. In this day and age, most people have been cheated on an astronomical amount of times. So when men see this, they often find that women of a certain age tend to carry a specific type of baggage, and they wear it as an armor. So when she's looking at him, she isn't just seeing him. She's looking at the mistakes her ex has made. Oftentimes there's comparison. He isn't starting with a clean slate. He's starting at a negative. And then he's trying to prove that he isn't like all the other guys. No man wants that burden. It's an unnecessary burden. Now, men love the enthusiasm and the optimism of a fresh romance. Women who have been through the wars of relationships are often more cynical than excited. This is why the more that women are engaged in a multitude of relationships, the less likely she is to be overall happy. Now, our next point: the corporate energy. Now, this one is usually a vibe killer. Boss energy is usually not attractive to most men. If a woman has spent 15 years climbing the corporate ladder to survive, she's likely developed certain masculine traits: assertiveness, combativeness, and dominance, all of which are repellents to most men and extreme repellents to productive men. There's a polarity issue here. Masculine men desire feminine women to balance them out. They want peace, not a boardroom negotiation. There's often competition he does not like. He wants a partner, not a competitor. If she can't switch off CEO mode when she gets home, the romantic polarity dies immediately. So here's the harsh and hard truth. Men usually don't care about a woman's career nearly as much as women care about a man's career, nor do they care about your money. Right? We only care how you make us feel. We can always figure out the rest. Here's the next point: the timeline pressure cooker. This one causes men to run for the hills. The artificial urgency. When you date a woman over 35, the relationship usually isn't allowed to breathe naturally. It is effectively a job interview on a strict deadline. Instead of letting things flow, the process is usually rushed. This is what we call rushed milestones. Instead of developing natural chemistry, a lot of it is force fed. Essentially, the subtext is, are we going to get married in 6 months? When are we going to have kids? When are you going to propose? How are you going to do this? When are you going to buy me a house? Da-da-da, da-da-do, da-da-da. It gets taxing, and men don't want to be rushed. You ever tried to rush a man out the door? See how upset he gets. It feels like an ultimatum. Your entire relationship should not feel like an ultimatum. The men feel the pressure of her internal clock. It kills the romance because the man feels like a means to an end rather than a person she actually wants to build with and love. This usually results in forced compliance. He feels he has to decide on the rest of his life before he even knows her middle name. Meaning, he has to make stark decisions that may impact him for the rest of his days if he actually likes this woman. That's a level of pressure that's not fair, and it's exceptionally one-sided. It's almost like joining a relationship with someone who knows they're not going to be on the earth soon. The next point, the motherhood priority shift. Now, this one is a subtle issue, but it is very crucial. If a woman is 36 and wants a child immediately, the man realizes he is not her priority. The baby is a priority. He's essentially just a donor and a provider. And typically, women like this don't mind obfuscating, ostracizing, or even eliminating those men from the equation, because your job is to drop the seed and then you can leave. So here's the problem with this version of things. It's a utility trap. The man wants to be desired for who they are, not just for what they can provide. In this scenario, they often feel like a utility, a necessary component to complete her life project. He misses out on the us years, those 3 to 5 years of just being a couple, traveling, bonding, before the stress of parenting hits. One of the greatest things about my relationship with my wife is the abilities that we had to grow and bond together long before we had children. So I feel for men in this regard. And those years prior to having children will sustain you when you have those children, when it gets stressful, when you're sleep deprived. Those memories and moments will sustain you. But here's the last point. And before I get into that, I'll just set a quick reminder. Like and subscribe, y'all. If you like this content, I'll keep making more of it. But back to the last point. And it's the biggest one. And it's the most controversial one. And it's the one that people don't like to talk about. But it is, in fact, a deal breaker. It's unfair, it's controversial, but it is scientifically undeniable. It's biology. If a man is dating with the intentions of starting a family, the math simply does not favor the woman over 35. We can speak to geriatric pregnancy risk, which women are constantly starting to deny since more women are having babies over 35. But what they fail to realize is the risk is still there for both you and the child. If the man loves you and understands biology, it makes sense why he would not want you to have a child at that age. He might want the child, But trust me when I tell you, he should understand why you shouldn't have a child at that age. Now, if we flip it, if you want the child and you're willing to take all of the risk associated with it, and he's saying no, he's probably saying no out of love and for your safety, whether you want to admit it or not. But a man who wants 2 or 3 kids knows that starting with a 36-year-old makes that mathematically extremely difficult, if not impossible, without medical intervention. Depending on where you're from, because apparently that, changes things as well. But it's still a numbers game. Not to mention the evolutionary drive. Men are biologically wired to seek fertility cues. Youth is the primary indicator of fertility. You might consider it superficial, but it's literally evolutionary survival. A man who wants a legacy looks at a 35-year-old woman and sees a closing window, but he looks at a 25-year-old as an open door. It has less to do with you as a person and more to do with situational awareness. So, let's talk about it, because there's always solutions in these things. It just matters whether or not you're willing to put forth an effort. If you're on the younger side of things, you still have time. Although your clock is ticking, understand it's ticking lower today than it will tick tomorrow. It'll be a lot louder tomorrow and really loud in about a year. Most women in this bracket need to understand that if you're going to put your career first, it might harm you long term. This is a lesson you should have learned from many women within your community, social circle, economic circle, and even celebrities have all fallen prey to this. You work so hard to get where you are, only to realize that you didn't have the same zeal for a family and it burned you. Don't be that woman. Y'all have to learn to treat dating this with the same intensity that you treated your career. That means careful who you connect yourself with. Don't skip opportunities. And be very careful where you decide to end your career with. And by career, obviously, I mean man. You essentially have to swap the same characteristics you have for your job with the person you're with. Here's another thing women should avoid: the fun guy. Many women fall prey to the trap of dating fun guys, the bad boy, the guy with potential that doesn't have potential. You don't have time to gamble anymore. So stop screening for excitement and start screening for stability. Look for boring traits like consistency, work ethic, and character. You have been taught to look for excitement and fun. Those things don't sustain you long term. If you keep it up, you'll find yourself 40 with no children and no husband and trying to figure out how to make it work. You shouldn't be looking at if the guy is sexy. You should be asking yourself, would he make a good father and husband? And last, and sometimes most importantly, you need to preserve your fertility. You got to leave your cynicism at the door. If you show up to a date acting defensive and testing him, any man with any common sense is going to just walk away. Keep your softness. Harden not your heart, is what the Bible tells us. It is your greatest competitive advantage, especially nowadays where women want to be more like men. Just behaving like a woman sets you apart. Doesn't matter anything about your status or anything else. It sets you apart from every other woman, because while women are trying to act like men, men are naturally inclined to go after the woman who acts like a woman. So here's where we talk to the women who are past that level. They call it post-wall. right? If you look at the men your age, they're pretty much tired if they're single. When they aren't fighting wars at work, they definitely don't want to come home and fight their second boss. Your biggest selling point is peace. While you may not have been married before, you may not have the experience of those positive long-term relationships, you should be able to understand peace. If you can be the woman that brings peace to a man's life and makes it easier, not harder, you're good. If you are cooperative, feminine, pleasant, you immediately jump ahead of some of these more dramatic, attitude-ridden women that got a chip on their shoulder. When I tell you, a man will trade peace for just about anything. Be the peace. Here's another thing. You must also learn to expand your buy box. I get it. You have a list of what you want. But if you're 38, demanding a man who's 38 and he was never married, never had kids, making six figures, has a six pack, is 6 feet tall, you're never finding this man. Because you're looking for a unicorn. You're not looking for a spouse. Essentially, you're dating like you're still 20. Childish while childless. What you need to do is look at the markets you once ignored, the ones you once thought you were too good for. You need to establish that you can offer value, companionship, rather than fertility. Not all men want to have children. This is where you can shine. You can also step in and be that companion to someone who's a divorced dad. If he already has children, he might not be looking to have any more. That's where he needs someone to be by his side. That's your highest probability of success. And here's a visual hack. You got to lead with your fitness. Let's be real. Far too many people over a certain age are overweight and out of shape. Biology is still visual, and men are still visual creatures. If you are 38 and you take care of yourself, dress well, and stay fit, you're very competitive. This might sound shallow, but it's the truth. The gym and diets are your best friend. A fit 38-year-old might be more attractive than an out-of-shape 28-year-old. You have to learn to extend your physical prime. And last but not least, I would say you need to learn to drop your list. That list didn't get you anywhere for the first couple of decades of your life. Burn it. Burn it, and then burn the trash can that you burned it in. You need to focus on the things that matter. And here are two. Does he treat you well? And can he build a life with you? Your flexibility will dictate your success. The sad truth is you're a bit late to the party. Here's the bottom line. And here's where I'll close. The dating market's not fair. It's a market. It was never meant to be fair. If you're under 35, realize that your time is an asset and spend it wisely. If you're over 35, realize that your attitude is your asset. Market it correctly. Men aren't looking for perfection. We are looking for someone who can bring value, peace, and loyalty to our lives. In other words, show what you can bring to the table. Stop listening to other women who are living miserably, can't get right, but love to offer advice. I am a man telling you what men are constantly already saying. Why? Because most men want the exact same thing. Peace. Be that woman, and you just never know. A ring just might follow. Hopefully this helps someone. I'll holler at you soon. Thanks for listening to the Center Ground Podcast. We'll be back soon with some more great content. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. We are a new channel, and growth is essentially our main objective. So send us an email at centerground.pod@gmail.com with any ideas or clips you would like for us to review. This was definitely fun, and I'd say let's do it again. But before you go, always remember, greatness lives somewhere within you. Just make sure you're taking the time to find the key to unlock that greatness. Until we meet again, I'll see you soon.